Tuned into Recovery TV, the voice of hope, with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Discussions and information on addiction and mental health issues. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. Narcan. If you can get it, pick it up, put it in your car, put it in your purse, put it in your back pocket. Everyone needs to carry it. We need to save lives. My guest today is Rebecca White. What a story. And Rebecca is a program coordinator for the Rhode Island Student Assistance Services. And she does also a couple of different things, a couple of different jobs within the state of Rhode Island. Rebecca, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
John, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
So let's talk about the program.
Sure. So
Driven.
Yes, Youth Driven. It is a traffic safety and leadership program here in the state of Rhode Island, and it is through the Rhode Island Student Assistance Services and supported by Rhode Island DOT, Office on Highway Safety. And our goal and our mission is to educate Rhode Island high school students all about traffic safety and leadership. So we really focus on driving safety. So that encompasses a whole bunch of things such as speeding, distracted driving, impaired driving, including drugs and alcohol, as well as seatbelt safety. And we encourage the students and educate them on these topics, and then they go into their high schools and teach other students about how important it is to wear your seatbelt or not drive distracted.
So Rhode Island doesn't have any problems with DUIs. We don't have any problems with impaired driving. We don't have any problems with driving while texting. So why do we have this program?
I laugh, but I shouldn't be laughing because it is a serious topic, but I laugh because we do, unfortunately, and that's why I have a job. I always say I wish I didn't have a job because that would mean our roads are safe, but unfortunately, there's only so much law enforcement that can do, and there's only so much our laws can do. So with Youth Driven, we really focus on educating these students so that way they can be another voice, whether it's them talking to their peers, their parents, their friends and relatives, and leading by example in making really good choices, because this is a problem for everyone. It is a unifying problem on our roadways, and we all share the roads, whether we're taking the bus, whether we're riding a bike, or whether we're in a vehicle. And these crashes happen every day, unfortunately.
You know, a lot of people, when they listen to my former show on the radio, I get a lot of feedback about your heart-wrenching story. If you don't mind, can we talk a little bit about that?
Of course.
And why you are the poster child
of
going out and telling kids why it's so important to pay attention.
Yes. So unfortunately, I was brought into the prevention world through tragedy in October 29th, 1999, I was involved in a drunk driving crash that took the life of my mother and my best friend, Katie DeCubulis. And through that tragedy, I found my voice in prevention through the Mothers Against Drunk Driving program at the time, and really fell in love with working with other students. I was a student at the time, and really using my voice to educate others on this topic of drunk driving, impaired driving, because it affects all of us. And my story, now it's almost been 25 years, which is incredible, and I truly can't believe it because I miss them every single day. But my story is only one of many. And unfortunately, even over the past couple of years, I've met new families and new youth that have lost loved ones and classmates. And this needs to stop, and this needs to be at the forefront of everyone's mind, because no parent, no sibling, no classmate should lose a loved one due to something that's 100% preventable. This is a choice that people are getting behind the wheel, and I understand that there's a lot of, we were talking about this earlier, there's a lot of sadness right now in our state and in our country, and depression, and people use to cover that and numb. So, you know, there's a big overlying issue. And with traffic safety, those individuals are getting into cars and they're struggling. And we're not attacking anyone that's using, we're not attacking anyone with these sort of things going on in their lives, but it's important that we all choose to make really good choices.
You know, over the past year, as we were chatting before we get on, the numbers are staggering, just like the overdose numbers.
Yes.
Drunk driving, it's like you just want to get people and shake them. Like, what the heck don't you realize that you're putting yourself and others in danger if you go to the bar and you have too much to drink, you go to a restaurant and you have too much to drink, and then you end up ruining somebody's life, family life. It could be your own family's lives.
Yeah.
And it just keeps evolving around choices.
It is around choices, and I think it's really important that now in 2024 there are options. There are options for individuals that choose to use alcohol and drugs and go out and enjoy themselves. There's choices to still make really good choices getting home. So whether that's public transportation, using a ride share, making a plan beforehand, having a designated driver, there are so many options if you do choose to use and are of the age. So I think that's an also really important key, that it's up to the individual, but it's also up to all of us that are making really good choices to continue to lead by example. And if an individual is struggling, if you're old enough, take the keys. You know, there's so many other ways to not get behind the wheel.
You know, you mentioned a lot of good choices. I think it's going to come down to a choice of these automobile makers putting components in the cars now. Every car.
Well, I'm happy that you brought that up, because the HALT Act is happening currently in the state of Rhode Island as we're taping this. It's, but we have until March 5th to get the HALT Act passed and have comments heard by Rhode Island and also across the country on why these new technologies are important to include in cars. And I always have people asking me, you know, what's the point? You know, is it really going to save lives? And the answer is yes. Think about seatbelts. Seatbelts weren't required at first, and then they were, and they've saved countless lives, including my own. I would not be sitting here if I weren't wearing a seatbelt that night.
You know, I was the prime sponsor in the seatbelt bill.
Were you? Oh, okay.
I was, when I was in the General Assembly, along with AAA. And you know, I had more nasty comments and emails to me, but you know how many people we saved?
Yeah. Change is hard for everyone,
Right.
and this is the next phase of that. We had seatbelts, then we had airbags, and we had backup cameras put in,
Right.
and now this is the next phase, and it's going to save lives.
Right,
So,
and that's what I don't get with people, because if you get in the car, you're going to have to blow into this instrument. If you're fine, you're fine. Your car starts right up. But if you're not fine, your car's not going to start up, and you're going to have to find alternative ways to get home. But you know what? We're saving lives by doing it. And it's unfortunate we have to go this way, because I always say you can't legislate common sense.
Yep.
Common sense is out the window right now because people are not using it. Too many people are dying on the roads today. As we see last year, we set a record. And I want to talk more about that when we come back from break.
Sure.
You've been watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. We'll be right back with Rebecca White right after these messages.
Now, back to Recovery TV with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV is made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, AdCare. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. Rebecca White is in the house with Youth Driven. Rebecca, thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Same.
And
Likewise.
talk about DUIs and fatalities and all good stuff.
Oh, yeah, all positive stuff, right?
So you also have a conference that you have young folks go to so they can learn, so they go back to their schools. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So Youth Driven has a summer summit. So this is an opportunity for youth from across Rhode Island. Doesn't matter, it is high school students or 8th graders going into their freshman year. They are welcome to attend. This is a free 3-day summit at Bryant University. We pay for everything. They live on campus, and there's 100 openings this year for students. And we already have 70 students signed up, which is remarkable, because This is a traffic safety and leadership summit, and many people would be like, why would a student want to go to that? Let me tell you, we've been doing it for the past 4 years, and it is an extremely life-changing experience for these students, because not only are they learning about traffic safety and being able to use their voice in a positive way and educating their youth about these topics, but they're also learning leadership skills that they can use for the rest of their life. And most importantly, they're also making connections with other students who are like-minded and also driven like themselves. So it's a community that they've built now over the past 4 years, and I'm so honored to be able to run it with them. The main goal of the whole summit is for the students to create an action plan that they then take back to their schools and communities to implement around traffic safety, whether it be impaired driving, speeding, seatbelt safety, or distracted driving.
You bring up a very good point, which always is a point with me in talking to young folks. We need more leaders than we need followers. If we have enough leaders, we wouldn't be in the predicament that we're in now.
Yeah.
Because peer pressure in the schools is huge. Bullying in school is huge. People make bad choices, and they regret those choices if in fact bad stuff happens for the rest of their lives.
Right. Our choices matter, even in high school.
Right. Now, when you see folks come to the State House and they testify, I mean, I worked on this particular piece of legislation a couple of years ago when they wanted to bring back the drinking at 4 o'clock, 4 to 6.
Yep.
I forget the name of it. I'm old now, I forget. And to see the parents testify of losing loved ones, children. No parent should have to bury their children.
Yeah.
No one. No one. Because of some choice that an individual made by getting in the seat of a car, intoxicated. And now on top of it, we have marijuana, and we have a whole bunch of other things that these kids can get their hands on. That is very costly. I mean, I was watching a program the other day, how much our insurance is going up, car insurance, because of all these things that are happening in Rhode Island, especially the fatalities, drunk driving, the numbers are up. The insurance companies don't sell insurance not to make money. And this gives them an excuse to raise the rates. And it's going to become a problem for seniors, young folks, especially young males. There's always
It's always, statistically, it just has shown that young males tend to be the main cause of many of these crashes.
And not to get into your personal stuff, but you know, I mean, I lost my mom and dad 5 or 6 years ago, and it never goes away.
Absolutely not.
Never goes away, and I can just imagine something as tragic as what you went through, as you indicated, that you know, you think of mom and your girlfriend, your best friend, every day.
Oh yes,
Every
every single day I think about my mom, and it's in different ways. And then also throughout life, all the big moments, there's always a little bit of sadness there. Yes, and all the victims I've spoken to over the years, we've shared that bond of, you know, we continue to live on, but we always have that grief, and you learn to live with that grief.
And it's not easy.
No, not at all. And it's not easy to have your wedding and not have your mom there, and it's not easy to have your son, who's now 9, ask or have questions about his grandma and not understand that she's in heaven. And it's excruciating and awful. And I can't tell you the number of times I say to myself, I wish you were here, Mom. And
I wish.
I wish. And that's truly, you know, going back to Youth Driven, I love what I do. I love working with the students, and just knowing that there are students out there that want to make a difference. There are communities out there in school communities that want to make a difference. I always say to individuals, you know, for the individuals that say, oh, teenagers these days, and I want to correct them and say, you know what? Out of the majority, there are a lot of great students out there. And they want to make change and they want to use their voice in a positive way. And that's really why I love Youth Driven. I can number off hundreds of kids that are fantastic and going to be leaders someday, and they just need the guidance of making good choices, and the community is so important, because I grew up in a small town. I was with the same group of friends for years and years and years, and you don't have another opportunity to reach out and make other friends, and that's what's beautiful about Youth Driven. You meet kids from across the state and different backgrounds. And
you get the people that say that to you about these kids. They paint it with on one brush.
Yeah, and that's not
just
fair.
like there's a bad police officers, bad firefighters, bad people in substance use and mental health, but there's a lot more good.
A lot more good
than there are bad.
Yeah, and I do have hope. You have to have hope to know that we're going to get to 0 fatalities. And I wanted to also mention that we are doing a campaign with Youth Driven, the Tori Lynn Andriozzi Foundation, and Mad Rhode Island this year, and it's called Safer Roads in 2024. The reason for this whole campaign is because in 2023, it was one of the worst years on our roadways for fatalities. We had 70 fatalities. These are preliminary numbers at this time. But we had 70 fatalities that were completely preventable. And that was the highest number in the past 6 years. So this year, in 2024, we encourage all Rhode Islanders, youth, adults, anyone that's on our roads, let's work together to make the road safer for everyone.
And
it's not just you.
And there's a reason why we had 70.
Yeah.
When you have alcohol sales, that's 300% since COVID.
Yeah,
And
COVID
that's
really
did a lot of damage to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And we're going to take another quick break.
Sure.
Pay the bills, and then we'll talk a little bit more about Youth Driven.
Sure.
You're watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, Sean Tassoni, here with Rebecca White from Youth Driven, and we'll be right back after these messages.
And now, back to Recovery TV with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV is made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, AdCare. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, Sean Tassoni. Rebecca White is in the house. Youth Driven, one of the best programs that we have for our youth in the state. Rebecca, welcome again, and thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure to see you, and the work that you do is God's work.
Oh, thank you.
You know, the more lives we can save, the better off we'll
Absolutely.
be. So let's talk about your program at Bryan again.
Sure.
Where people need to go online, or how to fill out an application to attend.
Yep.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. So if any students, Rhode Island students between, any Rhode Island high school students, including 8th graders going into their freshman year, are eligible to apply, you just have to go to our website at youthdriven.org, or just type into Google Youth Driven Rhode Island and we'll pop right up. You click on the Summit page and the registration is all there, and all the information, even frequent asked questions that you might have. And if there are any parents listening or watching today, check it out. I mean, especially if you have those new drivers and you're a little nervous about your kid getting behind the wheel, this is a fantastic program to educate them on how to stay safe, whether they're driving or their friends are driving. So.
And how much does it cost?
Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely free. Where are you going to go and get something like this? It's free.
3 days at Bryant University, and it's a great introduction for the students to kind of live on a college campus, eat the food, get acclimated, kind of be on their own, but we do have an amazing adult staff with them, so just to reassure them that we have a adult staff of 25, so the kid ratio is around 2 or 3 students per adult. So.
Great. 2023 was a bad year. Hopefully 2024 will be better. The more leaders that we bring forth, the better off we'll be. And again, thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
I don't know what else to say. I tell you, one of the good ones.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure.
And I'd love to be a part of that Youth Driven.
Yes.
If you get an opportunity.
Thank you.
You've been watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, Sean Tassoni. Take Rebecca up on it, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next week for Recovery TV.